Okay, let's take a closer look at this. Um, so on page 6, we have an essay written by ChatGPT. Let's go paragraph by paragraph to see what each paragraph is doing. In today's diverse and interconnected world, the integration of individuals from various cultural backgrounds into the Western workforce is an ongoing challenge. I have no idea what that means. While respecting religious freedom and women's rights is paramount, there is an argument to be made against allowing Muslim women to wear a full face covering such as a niqab when working in jobs that require face-to-face interactions. Okay, so this seems like the main point. According to this essay, we should not allow Muslim women to cover their entire face when their job requires face-to-face interactions. So this would be this essay's main position. The issue seems to be, should we allow Muslim women, etc. And this essay's position is no. Next sentence. This perspective is not rooted in women's liberation or religious freedom. Interesting. Usually when people say we should not, well, because usually people who talk about women's liberation or religious freedom would say women should not be forced to cover their face. But in fact, this essay is saying women should not be allowed to cover their face, which is not really the same thing. So the essay says it's not related to women's liberation or religious freedom. Rather, it centers on the necessity of adapting to local norms of politeness. Okay, so this seems to be the first point. Local norms of politeness. How do local people think of being polite? So when we get to this point, we think, okay, so if the essay can explain why covering your whole face is not polite, then Muslim women who come live here should not cover their entire face. So that's what we're expecting. Paragraph 2. Okay, so hang on. First paragraph, we have seen some kind of introduction, very vague, doesn't really mean anything. We have seen the main issue and the main position, and then we have seen the first point to support that position. Paragraph 2. In Western societies, interpersonal communication is a cornerstone of workplace dynamics. Okay, so something about interpersonal communication. Face-to-face interactions foster understanding, trust, and efficient collaboration among colleagues. So this sentence is saying why face-to-face interactions are important. However, the full face covering, like the niqab, impedes these crucial aspects of communication. Interesting. Is that true? Face-to-face interactions foster understanding, trust, and efficient collaboration. So if you can see face-to-face, you will have better understanding, better trust, and better efficiency. And then it says covering your entire face impedes these crucial aspects of communication. So it doesn't help, it hurts. Okay, could be, could be. Strictly speaking, this is not exactly logically correct. In logic, we say if P, then Q, but if not P, not necessarily not Q. In Chinese, 若 P 则 Q, 但是非 P 不代表非 Q, because there might be something else causing Q. So it says face-to-face interactions can help these things, but maybe these things also come from something else in the situation, not just from face-to-face interactions. So even if you cover your face, there might be other ways to foster understanding, trust, and efficiency. So technically speaking, if you cover your full face, you only hurt this one source of understanding, trust, and efficiency. So this sentence is technically an overgeneralization, 过度延伸. But anyways, it looks like it might make sense. Next sentence. Western norms prioritize openness and transparency, values that are reflected in the expectation that individuals engage in direct eye contact and convey facial expressions during professional interactions. Okay, this is also another very weird argument. We have two ideas. Openness and transparency are important values, okay? And this is somehow related to eye contact and facial expressions. But really, when we're talking about openness and transparency, we're not always talking about what you can see. This might be a metaphor. Like when somebody does some kind of business, you want to know how they do the business, right? That's being open and transparent, like an open and transparent government. That is not necessarily related to being able to see the person's face. So like eye contact and facial expressions, this is literal openness, but openness and transparency might be metaphorical openness, 比喻性的公开透明. So again, something very weird. So this paragraph is presenting the logic behind the position or the argument that it is more polite in the West to not cover your face. And this paragraph gives two explanations. One is you need understanding, trust, and efficiency. The other one is openness and transparency. But we just saw that these two reasons are not actually very strong reasons. Next paragraph. To illustrate the importance of adapting to local norms, one can draw a parallel with cultural practices in Bali, Indonesia. Okay, so this looks like an example of the previous point, right? So this paragraph is the logic. The next paragraph is one long example. When visiting temples in Bali, it is customary for women to wear a sarong instead of trousers or shorts. This cultural practice is not imposed to restrict personal freedom, but serves as a gesture of respect towards local customs and traditions. Okay, so the key idea of respect, not restricting freedom, it's simply a sign of respect. Visitors willingly comply with this norm, understanding that it is a small compromise to show consideration for the cultural fabric of the society they're engaging with. Okay, so again, on the surface, this looks like a good comparison. In the West, you shouldn't cover your face. In Indonesia, you shouldn't wear pants into a temple. But the example is not exactly the same because we don't see why it is so important not to wear pants into a temple in Indonesia. We don't have something like this paragraph that tries to explain why. If we only look at this example, it seems like, oh, when in Rome, you should do as the Romans do. But what if there is a good reason for somebody not to wear a dress when they want to visit a temple? How do you decide between the two sets of values? When is it, could it be possible in some situations that it is more important to break this rule because something else is even more important? We have no explanation. So again, on the surface, it looks fine, but it doesn't actually add a lot to the essay's main argument. Next paragraph. Similarly, in Western workplaces, the expectation of uncovering one's face during professional interactions can be seen as a comparable cultural norm. So it's saying just like in Bali, therefore also in the West. It is not an infringement on religious freedom as individuals are free to practice their religion outside the professional setting. What this means is if Muslim women want to cover their face, they can, they don't have to work in a job that requires them to show their face. Again, I'm not exactly sure how strong that argument is. It's kind of like saying nobody is forcing you to be poor. You all have the freedom to make money. Because here we're talking about jobs, right? However, adapting to local norms is crucial in ensuring effective communication and fostering a harmonious work environment. Why? Why is adapting to local norms crucial to communication and harmony? No explanation. Last paragraph. Allowing Muslim women to wear a full face covering in jobs that require face-to-face interactions could inadvertently create a barrier between colleagues and hinder effective communication. Okay, so now we have some explanation of the last point. Why is it so crucial? Because if they cover their face, it might create a barrier between colleagues and hurt communication. But again, how? Like to create a barrier between people, usually we say this as a metaphor, 在比喻嘛, right? I don't know how to work with them. It's like there's a barrier between us. But here, the essay is talking about the face covering as an actual barrier. So again, it logically does not really make sense. It needs more explanation. Next sentence. This is not an issue of discrimination or cultural insensitivity, but a pragmatic approach to aligning with the prevailing norms of Western workplaces. Okay, so this sentence is comparing two things. Some people might say this is discrimination or insensitivity, but this essay is saying, no, we just want to follow the local norms. However, throughout the essay, we have not seen why it is so important to follow the local norms. Whereas if you want to defend against discrimination or insensitivity, it's not enough just to say it. You can't just say this is not. You have to explain why not. And the essay does not explain. Just as visitors to Bali willingly don a sarong to respect local traditions, individuals working in the West should be willing to uncover their faces to conform to the established norms of professional courtesy. Okay, another very weird sentence. Visitors to Bali willingly wear a sarong when they enter temples. Therefore, people who work in the West should be willing. This sounds like people over there volunteer. So people over here should allow me to volunteer them. 那边的人自愿，那这边的人应该可以让他们被自愿。Right? It doesn't really fit. If it really is willingly, then you shouldn't have to force them. And then in doing so, they contribute to an inclusive and communicative work environment that prioritizes effective collaboration and mutual understanding. None of this is explained in the essay. Why? How does it help? Why does it help? Now, whenever I say, how does this work or why is it like this? Some of you might be thinking of reasons. The point is you have to put those reasons in the essay. When you write an essay and somebody reads it, you're not standing next to them able to explain all of your thinking. You have to put all of your thinking into the essay. Otherwise, it doesn't count. So that's the ChatGPT version. If I were to give it a grade out of 15, the logic is 3 out of 5. Well, like the presentation order makes sense. It has ideas. It tries to support those ideas. So it's 3 out of 5. But the supporting is not very good. In terms of pathos, the emotion, when you read this essay, what do you feel? I feel bored. So that's 1 point, 1 out of 5. And then ethos, when you read this essay, can you imagine in your mind what kind of person the author is? Can you trust the author? Do you admire the author? Do you feel like the author is talking to you? No, the person I imagine is some bureaucrat sitting in an office writing the rules. 就文书官人写的文章. So also 1. So this essay out of 15 points would get 5 points. So yes, the vocabulary is medium advanced. The grammar is perfect, but that's not what we're looking at in this course. We're looking at how good is this essay? Does it convince you? And by that standard, it's not a very good essay. Let's look at the human version. Quite a long time ago, having briefly joined the herd of 20-something backpackers that eternally roams Southeast Asia, I found myself in Bali. Okay, so the author has already entered the essay. Right? She went on a backpacking trip and she ended up in Bali. Like all of the other 20-somethings, I carefully read the Lonely Planet Backpacker's Guide to Indonesia and learned, among other things, that it was considered improper for women to wear shorts or trousers when entering Balinese temples. So this sentence gives us the idea that in that place, women should not wear pants when entering a temple. They have to wear like a dress or a sarong or something. But here it adds new information that ChatGPT did not. It's according to a backpacker's guide, 旅行指南. So like when ChatGPT said, oh, people expect, we might be thinking, how would you know? But the author tells us how she knows. She gives us the source of her information. Next sentence. I dutifully purchased a Balinese sarong and looking awkward and foreign, wore it while visiting temples. I didn't want to cause offense. Okay, so she learned that this is something that women were expected to do, and she did it because she didn't want to cause offense. She wants to be polite. Paragraph 2. I thought of that long ago incident during a visit last week to London, where a full-fledged shouting match has broken out over Muslim women who choose to wear the veil. Okay, so now we're bringing up the main topic, right? As you can see in the title, veiled insult. It has to do with a veil. This particular argument had begun because a teaching assistant in Yorkshire refused to remove her veil, a niqab, which covers the whole body except for the eyes. So it's not just about the face, it's the whole body except for the eyes. She refused to remove it in the presence of male teachers, which was much of the time. She was fired, she went to court, and a clutch of senior British politicians entered the fray. So this paragraph gives us the main example. Something recently happened, and a lot of politicians also started commenting, and that automatically makes it something important, because politicians are the people who can affect the direction of the country. So what they think and what laws they pass could affect the whole country. Therefore, their ideas about this issue are important. 3. Jack Straw, the former Foreign Secretary, called the full-face veil a visible statement of separation and of difference. Okay, notice what he says. It's a statement. So he's also talking about separation and difference as a metaphor, not literally. Tony Blair, the Prime Minister, added that he could see the reason for the teaching assistant to be suspended. So this paragraph adds more importance to the topic. The paragraph 2 said politicians, but paragraph 3 gives us important politicians, former foreign secretary, the current prime minister. These are very important people. So these two paragraphs added together tell us that this is an important topic. It's worth talking about. It's worth trying to think about. 4. What followed was predictable. Accusations of racism, charges of discrimination, and disagreement about whether the veil was even a valid topic of discussion. If Blair and Straw were really concerned about Muslim women, shouldn't they be more interested in underage marriages or wife beating or something more important? Okay, so this is the first thing we hear from the other side. This essay says that we should talk about this issue, and later we will see that the author supports forcing Muslim women to remove their face coverings. But here already the other side is probably going to say it's the woman's personal freedom. What right does the government have to tell her what to do? You're discriminating against her as a Muslim woman, that kind of thing. So this is the idea from the other side. It's also kind of racist because like what does underage marriage or wife beating have to do with Muslim people? It's kind of implying that it's more likely for Muslim people to marry underage, and it's more likely for Muslim people to beat their wives. without actually saying it. It's implying it. 在暗示. A little bit racist. Number 5, the short answer is yes, probably. So the way that the author responds to this point is to say, you are right. But the curious fact is that the veil as a political issue won't go away. You are right, but it is irrelevant to the topic. We should talk about those things, but right now everybody wants to talk about this thing. And then won't go away. The author gives some examples, the French, some Germans, Turkey. So it's not just, and then also the United States. So it's not just the UK. It seems like many countries are talking about this. Therefore, it is worth talking about. 6, critics call the veil, again, critics. So the other side. No, sorry. Critics call the veil a symbol of female oppression or rejection of Western values. So actually, this is the same side as the author. Critics of the veil, people who are against face covering, say that it's female oppression, rejection of Western values. Defenders, so people on the other side, say that it's a symbol of religious faith. It allows women to be free from cosmetics, so makeup, from fashion, from unwanted male attention. And then other ideas get brought up. Female emancipation, which means female liberty, freedom. Religious freedom, assimilation, 同化, whether this person fits into the local culture. So this paragraph is telling us what people are saying about this topic. Some people say this, other people say that. And you can see, right, this is two sides. One side, the other side, defenders, the other side. So it's outlining the situation for you. It's picking two sides, telling you what each side is saying. Paragraph 7, and yet at a much simpler level, surely it is also true that the full-faced veil, the niqab, burqa, or chador, causes such deep reactions in the West, not so much because of its political or religious symbolism. So with this one sentence, the author is saying everything in paragraph 6 is unimportant. That's not what I'm going to talk about. So this is a very special move that she uses because everybody is already talking about this issue. If you side with, here's the thing, if people are already talking about it, then if you stand on one side, people will think you agree with everything on that side. And you are against everything on the other side. By simply picking a side, people will think you are assuming all of the values of that side. And the author does not agree. The author wants to present her own ideas. So it's not because of the above stuff, but because it is extremely impolite. So actually it is connected with Western values. She just doesn't call it values. She calls it being polite. Just as it is considered rude to enter a Balinese temple wearing shorts, so this is why she talked about Indonesia at the beginning of the essay, so too is it considered rude in a Western country to hide one's face. We wear masks when we want to frighten, when we're in mourning, 在哀悼中, or when we want to conceal our identities. This is, of course, before the pandemic. But actually, if you watch Western news, a lot of Western people don't like it when other people wear a mask. And this could be part of why. To a Western child or even an adult, a woman clad from head to toe in black looks like a ghost. Thieves and actors hide their faces in the West. Honest people look you straight in the eye. Okay, so this paragraph tries very hard to connect the idea of the niqab with the idea of wearing masks. But it doesn't exactly work, and you can tell because of the last 4 words. Look somebody straight in the eye. If you are wearing a niqab, like the Muslim woman, can you look somebody straight in the eyes? Yes, because the niqab covers everything except the eyes. So if you look at the actual logic of this paragraph, it doesn't make sense. Right? Wearing masks when we want to, like, this is a Halloween mask. Halloween masks cover the eyes. A mourning mask or a mourning veil also covers the eyes. But the niqab does not. So I don't know what she's talking about. Although she does try to say like the rest of the niqab makes the woman look scary. But she doesn't really talk more about this idea. It's not really talking about the body, it's talking about the face. So again, you can see that the author is trying very hard to support her main idea, and she comes from many different directions, but she never manages to actually support the idea. 多方支架没有一点打到。8. Given that polite behavior is required in other facets of their jobs, it doesn't seem to me in the least offensive to require school teachers or civil servants to show their faces when dealing with children or the public. Okay, polite behavior is required. Therefore, we should force teachers and civil servants to show their faces when dealing with children or the public. Again, this sentence is doing a lot of stuff. Polite behavior includes many things. It's not like either somebody is polite or not polite, right? There are very different levels of being polite. So if you want to say somebody has to be polite, how polite? How impolite do they have to be before you punish them? Same thing, right? Therefore, how impolite is it to wear a niqab when dealing with the public? Is it impolite enough that we should punish this person? These are all questions that the author does not talk about. And then it says, when dealing with children or the public. Children or the public. Are these two groups equal? Men and women? Parents and children? Teachers and students? Children and the public? Is that the same? It's not, right? Children are part of the public. So why does she isolate children? Why does she emphasize children? This is something that politicians do a lot because we instinctively care more about women, children, minorities, the disabled, elderly, anybody who is not a middle-aged man. So by mentioning children, this is actually pathos. It's using our emotions. She's hoping that when we see, oh, when you deal with children, yes, of course you have to be nice and polite and you don't want to scare them. But logically speaking, it's not really related to the subject. Right, so, and then she repeats the main point. If Western tourists in Bali, then Muslim women in the West. Same thing. But this kind of comparison depends on her explanations. And as we saw in paragraph 7, her explanation doesn't exactly make sense. 9. It would, of course, be outrageous if Tony Blair or the French government were to ban veils altogether. Just as it's outrageous that Saudi Arabia bans churches and even forbids priests from entering the country. But just because authorities persecute Christians and Jews in some parts of the Muslim world doesn't mean, okay, so here she's saying, I'm not saying you should ban all niqabs everywhere. In their private lives, Muslim women living in the West should be free to use veils or headscarves as they wish. But freedom to practice religion in the West shouldn't imply freedom to hold jobs that impinge on that practice. So you can do whatever you want in your private life, but once you go out in public and work in public, you have to follow some rules. That makes sense. But what the author is saying is not wearing a niqab should be one of those rules. That's the main argument here. And then she uses an example, an Orthodox Jew, a very traditional Jewish person. should not have an absolute right to work in a restaurant that is open only on Saturdays. So Orthodox Jewish people are not allowed to work on Saturday. They're not allowed actually to not just work, they're not allowed to do any work. They cannot cook, they cannot open the door, they cannot turn on the light on Saturdays. So she's saying just because of freedom does not mean an Orthodox Jewish person should have the right to work on Saturdays. Another example, a Quaker. A Quaker is somebody who is, it's a religion, and they believe absolutely in no violence. So a Quaker cannot join the army and then state that his religion prohibits him from fighting. By the same token, which means similarly, a Muslim woman who wants to cover her face has no absolute right to work in a school or an office where face-to-face conversations are part of the job. Again, on the surface, it looks logical, but give me a job that does not require face-to-face conversations. Can you think of a job that does not require face-to-face conversation? Telemarketer. Okay. Other jobs? IT support. Okay. Other jobs? Although even in IT support, if you're working at home, yes. If you're working in an office, you do have to face your boss. Other jobs? So you can see the author is right. They don't have an absolute right. But when you think about how many jobs would be available for them, they should have a relative right. If there are many jobs they can take, I think this argument would make more sense. But if they only have like 5 jobs they can do, it creates a really serious financial hardship for Muslim women who insist on wearing the veil because of religious reasons. Okay, and then last paragraph. It isn't religious discrimination or anti-Muslim bias to tell her that she must be polite to the natives, respect the local customs, try to speak some of the local patois, patois means language, and uncover her face. Again, a very sneaky paragraph. We should be polite to local people, true. We should respect local customs, true. We should try to learn the local language, true. But are those the same as what the essay is about? Not really. The previous 3 are actually about tourism. When you go somewhere else to travel, you should be polite to local people, try to learn some of the customs, try to learn some of the language. This is about someone who is here trying to work and to live. So it's not exactly the same. It's actually quite different. And you can tell that this is what the author is trying to do because she uses the word natives. Native as a noun is an offensive word for local people. So why does she use this offensive word? She's using it ironically. English is a very ironic language. This word was used in the 19th century and early 20th century by Western governments to describe the local people that they colonized, 就是殖民地的当地人. And then from that period, we have phrases like the natives are restless, or we must take care of the natives, that kind of thing. So we don't call local people natives anymore, but these phrases are still in the language. So in her earlier example, she is, I assume, a white woman. She visited Indonesia. So in the colonial language, she would be closer to like a colonizer and the local people would be natives. But it's not exactly the same because now she is not in control of their government. She is only there to have fun. So it's ironic, 在讽刺. And so you can tell that she's trying to be like light and positioning herself as only a visitor, only a tourist. But really her argument is about forcing Muslim women in the West to remove their niqab. So she's trying to convince you using a lighter tone that doesn't match her logic. Okay, so we see that the human written essay is trying to do many other things. The ChatGPT essay basically presents the ideas, tries to explain the ideas, and then ends the essay. But the human essay does a lot more. Gives us an example, gives us why the essay is important, as somebody mentioned in the discussion, gives us what other people are saying about this topic, and then only in paragraph 7 presents her own ideas. And then tries to explain it. Paragraph 8 and paragraph 8 uses her earlier Indonesia example to explain her ideas. Paragraph 9 says this is not too much to ask. It is actually reasonable. By giving more extreme situations, comparatively, her presentation seems like it makes more sense. It's more reasonable. And then paragraph 10 is a very uh, light conclusion. So this essay, uh, logos, I would give it 4. Pathos, I would give it like also 4. And then ethos, 3. I don't trust her, but it's very clear what kind of person she is trying to be on the page. But it's much better than the ChatGPT essay, which is what was it? 443, 8 plus 3, 11, and the ChatGPT essay was 5 or 4, I think. No, 5. Yeah, so we can see how the human written essay, even though it's not perfect, is much better than the ChatGPT version. So I hope you keep some of these ideas in mind when you think about how to write your own argument essay. And we're gonna take a short break, and then in the next period, we're going to do an activity involving 2 competing human essays. Okay, let's take a look at page 9. Should the drinking age be lowered? As you know, the drinking age in the United States is 21 years old. You cannot drink alcohol legally in the US until you are 21. So this essay is asking, should this age limit be lowered? Now, as we read this essay, I'm going to do two things, and I want you to pay attention. We compared a ChatGPT essay to a human essay, and we found that the ideas were similar and that the logic is similarly imperfect. But the main difference is in the presentation, right? The human essay makes you interested in the topic. It explains why it's important. It clarifies the author's position. So you can see that when we talk about an argument essay, we're actually talking about two different aspects. One is, does it make sense? And the other is it presented in a convincing way? And this is why we write argument essays. We don't write argument PowerPoints. We don't write argument lists, because it's not just about the information, it's also about the presentation. So we focused on presentation for your essays last semester. In freshman year, when you learned how to write an outline, that was also based on presentation. What comes first, what comes second. But here, I also want you to think about, how do you write an argument outline? Let me give you a basic framework. So in a regular essay outline, you would think like, oh, introduction, and then first idea, and then like, what kind of story do you want to tell? And then second idea. But when we think about the ideas of an argument essay, these are the kinds of things I want you to think about. So you'll notice that in this outline, there is no introduction, there is no conclusion. This is simply what ideas are in this essay. The issue, what are we talking about? The position, which side does the author stand? What is their, not the first point, what is their most important point? And how does the author explain that point? Example just means explanation. What is their second most important point? Again, not their second point, their second most important point. How do they explain it? The third most important point. How do they explain it? All the way until they run out of points. So when we look at an argument essay, I hope you can do both kinds of outlines. What does the first paragraph say? What does the second paragraph say? But also, what is the issue? What is the position? What is the most important argument? Second most important argument, all the way down. Because even if it is a readable and fluent essay, as we just saw, it still might not make sense. So we have to look at the logic separately. So let's do an ordinary outline, like a more traditional presentation outline for this essay, and then we'll turn this traditional outline into an argument ideas outline, or argument structure, let's say. Should you lower the drinking age? Paragraph 1. Every year around this time, millions of American kids graduate from high school, throw massive parties, and get drunk. Police end up arresting a lot of these kids, causing them legal trouble for months or even years. So Every year around this time, there's a new debate about whether we should lower or even abolish the legal drinking age. So what is the first paragraph doing? It is introducing the topic, the discussion about the drinking age. Number 2, what's different this time is that an entire organization, a conspicuously sober group led by a former college president, now exists to promote the idea that drinking should be lowered from 21 to 18. John McCardell Jr., an esteemed historian of the American South and former head of Middlebury College, founded Choose Responsibility in 2006 to argue in favor of licensing 18 to 20-year-olds to drink after they have completed an exhaustive 42 hours of instruction in the history, chemistry, psychology, and sociology of alcohol, which could even include sitting in on an AA session for 3 hours. AA is Alcoholics Anonymous. It's a support group for alcoholics. So what is paragraph 2 doing? It gives us the new player in this debate, right? So it adds urgency. Why? So the first paragraph says we talk about this issue every year. The second paragraph says this year is different because there's this new guy, McCardell. Paragraph 3, McCardell has won some favorable news coverage, and when I first emailed him last year, I told him his idea sounded persuasive. Okay, so the author has entered the essay. He has personally communicated with this man. After all, in almost every other legal and cultural respect, you are an adult at 18. You can vote, adopt children, sign up for Iraq, which means to go fight in Iraq, or become a commercial pilot at 18. Treating alcohol differently helps turn it into a holy grail of adulthood, a kind of like a milestone, 一个里程碑. In a 224-page white paper, 白皮书, he co-authored, McCardell also argues that raising the minimum age to 21, as states did after the federal government threatened to withhold highway funds in 1984, forced alcohol consumption behind the closed doors of dorms and fraternity basements. Fraternity, 兄弟会. Always unsupervised, done in secret, and too often excessive, this style of drinking has no doubt been responsible for the alarming rise in rates of so-called binge drinking, 暴饮, seen at colleges. So what is paragraph 3 doing? It is presenting the side of 4. In other words, should lower the drinking age. These are the reasons why people think the drinking age should be lowered. The ideas include same as for other age limits, talking about like, what is it? Voting, fighting, being an airline pilot. And then the harms of banning until 21. Right, it says it pushes it into secrecy. It is unsupervised, often excessive. 4, McCardell's argument seems logical, but it falls apart once you look at the statistics on underage drinking. So immediately we can see that paragraph 4 is about against. Why should we not lower the drinking age? And the argument is about statistics. So we can already say that, right? Statistics. Statistics are a dangerous kind of evidence. There's a famous saying, lies, damn lies, and statistics. Because statistics is just playing with numbers. You can make numbers say whatever you want. First of all, while binge drinking is a serious problem, the data do not show that it has gotten worse since states raised their drinking age. Okay. So statistics, and then 1, binge drinking, not worse. And then we have, as researchers blah and blah point out in blah, blah. So this is the evidence that it has not changed a lot. And then according to blah, the number of 19 to 22-year-olds who reported consuming 5 or more drinks in a row in the 2 weeks prior to being surveyed actually fell between 84 and 06. And no researchers have documented increase in percentage, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so the evidence does not support that binge drinking got worse after the drinking age was made higher. The whole paragraph is about this idea. Paragraph 5. There's a more basic problem. If the drinking age is lower to 18, who is to provide the supervision that McCardell suggests? So McCardell says, like, the drinking is always unsupervised. Okay, but once you lower the drinking age, who will supervise these teenagers? So, who will supervise? Surely not bar owners. So like no, the idea is we don't really know who. Number 6, finally, lowering the drinking age to 18 would stop infantilizing college students. So it would start treating college students as adults instead of children. But it would probably kill more of them in traffic accidents. Okay, so more traffic accidents is the point of this paragraph. In 2006, this many people aged 16 to 20 died in alcohol-related deaths on US roads. This is 2121 people. According to data, blah, blah, blah. But in 1984, the number was 4612, much higher. McCardell has argued that improvements in seatbelt use and car safety partly explain these gains. But traffic fatalities unrelated to alcohol have increased 21% in that age group during the same period. Okay, more traffic accidents, but the first point says, the other side says other reasons, but actually, what was the number? Unrelated to alcohol have increased. So again, the response is more statistics. Let me give you an example of why statistics can be dangerous. It says overall car accident deaths decreased. And then it says unrelated to alcohol have increased. So it sounds like related to alcohol has decreased, right? So keeping 18 to 21-year-olds unable to drink has prevented them getting into drunk driving accidents. That's what it looks like, right? But think about this. When you are driving, people who wear seatbelts, people who drive safer cars, and people who don't drink when they drive, are these 3 separate groups of people? Could one person do all 3? Do you see what I'm saying? He's saying we have this group of people. We take out the parts that are related to alcohol, and so these people are not related to alcohol. Therefore, they must be related to seatbelts and car safety. But maybe some people belong in more than one group. So actually, this use of statistics is wrong. It's not logical. 这样有听懂吗？要我用中文讲一遍吗？没有听懂的举手。好，都听懂了，太好了。If you didn't understand, you can go home and watch the video. Okay, paragraph 7. Choose responsibility supporters have also claimed that other countries that haven't raised their drinking ages, including Canada and the UK, saw their drunk driving fatalities drop even faster than in the US. Okay, so paragraph 7 is continuing this point. First, it says that alcohol-related drunk driving deaths have decreased. But the other side says other countries did not raise their drinking ages, but their drunk driving deaths also decreased. Not related to drinking age. But that's simply not true. In 1984, 45% of US drivers killed in accidents turned out to have been legally drunk. That percentage was just 32% in 2006. By contrast, the percentage of drivers killed in Great Britain who were drunk actually rose slightly from 19% to 21%. So the response is not true, right? We talked about the levels of rebuttal. This is the very first level. He's saying, no, you're wrong. That is not true. That is not the fact. But again, these statistics are not trustworthy. Again, look at what it's saying. The percentage of drivers killed in accidents who are drunk or who are not drunk. When it's comparing like 45 to 32 or like 19 to 21, it is assuming that people who died from car accidents who were not drunk were driving in the exact same safety levels of cars, were doing the exact same things. It's assuming that the only difference is, are they drunk or not? But it could be that the number the reason the numbers change are related to the so-called standard behavior of drivers who are not drunk. Maybe more people now follow the rules. Maybe their cars have gotten safer. Whereas maybe those changes were not the same in the UK. Oh, here's what I'm trying to say. Let's say you have 1,000 people who have died in car accidents. Okay, so like it's using percentages. So it's assuming that you have a fixed number of people who have died in car accidents, and the number of those people who are drunk have increased or decreased. But it could be that the number of people who died in car accidents who are drunk remains the same, and the total number of people who died in car accidents becomes bigger or smaller. The percentage is the same, but the assumption is different. Because if you look at it one way, it seems like, oh, drunk driving has gotten more serious, which is what the author is saying. But if you look at it another way, it's saying basic driving has gotten safer or less safe. We can assume, I think, that drunk driving is basically unsafe no matter what else happens. You drive a safer car, you have better seatbelts, but if you're drunk and you drive, it's basically the same level of unsafe. So again, the statistics don't tell you the whole story. It looks on the surface like the numbers changing means better or worse, but there could be more reasons behind why the numbers are changing. And then paragraph 8. McCardell is right that the US has an odd and dysfunctional relationship with alcohol, and his voice is refreshing in a debate dominated by mad pieties. What does mad mean? We'll see that later in the next essay. It's a group against drunk driving, but lowering the drinking age is going too far. So paragraph 8 is saying, you're right, there is a problem, but lowering the drinking age is the wrong solution. So this is the structure of the presentation of the essay. But which arguments are more important and which arguments are less important? Okay, so in terms of the argument structure, we can skip the introduction. The introduction doesn't matter. The urgency doesn't matter. So we're looking at paragraphs 3 to 8. The issue, drinking age limit. The author's position, keep 21. So we have a number of reasons. Okay, I think the arguments here, the most important one is it's the wrong solution. Here, this is explaining it's the wrong solution. Lowering the drinking age is the wrong solution. The positive argument. Okay, the main positive argument is that lowering the drinking age will create more traffic accidents. Once I finish writing this, you'll see why this is the most important one. And then example 1 is like US statistics, and example 2 is European statistics. Right, that's what he does, right? The first one is about, let's look at paragraph 6. Where is it? Here. In 2006, 2121 people died. In 1984, 4612. So this is within the US. So I guess we can also call this like historical, like, or like over time. Okay. We should call this 18 versus 20. No, because they're both 18 versus 20. Yeah. Over time. So in the past and in the present. And then in paragraph 7, it says Canada and the UK. So it's comparing different countries in the present. And in both cases, according to the author, having 18 years old as the drinking age makes things worse. Second point, who will supervise? So the idea here is that the 18 only works if you have somebody to supervise these 18 and 19-year-olds. Currently, there is nobody. And then the third point is that binge drinking not worse? Yes, okay. So no need, because the main idea from the other side is binge drinking, and in fact, binge drinking has not gotten worse. Let's see, what paragraph was this? Paragraph 4. While binge drinking is a serious problem, the data do not show that it has gotten worse since states raised their drinking age. So when the drinking age got from 18 to 21, binge drinking did not get worse. Therefore, there is no need to lower the drinking age again. Yeah, so those are the main arguments. Think about these 3 points. The first point, lowering the drinking age to 18 will cause more traffic accidents. Second point, lowering the drinking age to 18 will not work if there is nobody to supervise these people. And the third point, there is no need to lower the drinking age because the problem said by the other side does not actually exist. Can you tell why the first one is more important, the second one is slightly less important, and the third one is the least important? Think about it this way. Which argument is easier to answer, to respond to? The third point, there is no need because binge drinking did not get worse. Well, what if I said that after the drinking age was raised to 21, it caused a lot of different problems? Well, then maybe we would need to lower the age again. The second one, it will only work if we can find somebody to supervise these 18 and 19-year-olds. But currently there is nobody. Okay, so we grab some people, we pay them to supervise. Problem solved. But the first one, lowering the drinking age will cause more traffic accidents. In order to rebut this point, you have to prove that either there are not more traffic accidents, or sorry, that there will not be more traffic accidents, or that if there will be more traffic accidents, it will not be because of drinking. That sounds much harder to do. And so that's why the first point is most important, most powerful. And then the second point is slightly less powerful. And the third example is the least powerful point. Okay? Okay, so homework. Do this with the next essay. Actually, what time is it? 16. No, we have time. Let's do this together. Great. Okay. Sorry to scare you. Old enough to drink, old enough to fight, old enough to drink. Okay, here's what your actual homework is. I will guide you to do the regular outline and the argument structure for this essay. And I want you to go home and see between these two essays, which one makes more sense. In other words, which one replied to the other one's argument more effectively. Because they're about the same topic. They were written at around the same time. They should be talking to each other or debating each other. So who would win this argument? So let's look at this essay. Old enough to fight, old enough to drink. Hang on. Okay. At age 18, an American can enlist in the military, vote, sign a contract, get married, have an operation. Hey, in California, a 14-year-old can have an abortion without telling her parents, but he cannot buy a beer, not legally anyway. So the first one is, again, presenting the idea that should be the same age for everything adult. If you can do these other adult things, you should be able to drink. 为什么在这么前面? Okay, whatever. 2. It makes absolutely no sense, and it is shameful that my generation, which won the right to vote at age 18, continues to infantilize people who are allowed to make life and death decisions on every issue, save one. Save means except. We believe in rights, except for college-age kids, even if they are serving in the military. So this is explaining the first paragraph. The first paragraph presents the idea, the second paragraph explains it. Enter the Amethyst Initiative, 计划, pushed by former Middlebury College President John McCardell, 有这家伙, and signed by more than 100 college presidents, which is pushing for Washington, D.C. to reopen public debate over the drinking age. According to McCardell, it is time for Washington to reconsider a 1984 measure. Okay, so this is the this is the issue and the position all come out in paragraph 1. And then paragraph 3 is the urgency. Because again, there's a new guy joining the debate, this McCardell guy. Number 4, the reason for the Amethyst Project, Amethyst Initiative, Amethyst Project. What's going on? The reason for the Amethyst Project, named for a gemstone believed to be an antidote to the negative effects of intoxication. Intoxication means being drunk. Is simple. Many college officials do not believe that the 21-year-old drinking age works. They believe that most students break the law. Worse, McCardell argues, they believe that the age fosters a culture of dangerous clandestine binge drinking. Clandestine means secret. Okay, so paragraph 4 is explaining the general how do I say this? Like experts agree. Let's say this. Experts agree that the drinking age should be lowered. College officials, right? These are the people who deal with 18 and 19-year-olds. And then we have like a secret drinking culture, which sounds way too cool. Five, does the law work? So like raising the age to 21, does that work? How many kids break it? More than half of 18 to 20-year-olds, according to the Department of Health and Human Services' latest survey on drug and alcohol use, reported that they drank alcohol in the last month alone, despite legal prohibitions. So over half illegally drank alcohol in the last month. College students were more likely to drink than their same age peers not attending college. So apparently it doesn't work. I submit that there's something wrong, something to be content with a law that most people break. Okay, so paragraph 5 is 21 doesn't work. And then you have two pieces of evidence, right? All 18 and 19-year-olds, sorry, not all, over half of 18 and 19-year-olds, and then more in college have illegally drink alcohol in the last month. So statistics, but these statistics are simpler because it's directly asking about the action. Did you or did you not? It's not comparing numbers. It's not looking at complicated situations. 6. Okay, so I guess there is one complicated situation here. The Catholic Church during the Mass had one part of the Mass you have to drink wine from a cup. 就天主教望弥撒的时候，其中有一个仪式是要从酒中喝葡萄酒，从杯中喝葡萄酒。So I guess the survey should also ask, "Are you Catholic?" and exclude those people. But it should be a small number of people, or not a large number of people. 6. The primary opposition to the initiative comes from Mothers Against Drunk Driving, MAD. We just saw this group in the last essay. So these are the people who are against lowering the drinking age. So we can say that, right? 6. Against 18, what do they say? MAD argues that if the drinking age is lowered, then more high school students will drink. That seems reasonable, right? More will drink. That may well be true, so the author agrees. Maybe you're right. Although it does seem that teens have scant trouble finding alcohol or illegal drugs as it is. The same national study found that close to 30% of 16 and 17-year-olds drank alcohol in the past month. About 13% smoked marijuana. Not sure why we're talking about marijuana. We're supposed to be talking about alcohol. So, okay. So these guys say you'll get more teenagers to drink, but actually the response is they already do, 30%. Now, is this a strong response? 30 to 50%? That's actually a lot of people, right? 30 to 50%. 20% is 1/5 of the people who did the survey. So it seems like it's a small difference, but actually it's a large difference. But anyway, that's the response. 7. Matt also argues that the 21-year-old drinking age saves lives. Okay. So these people say 21 saves lives. Oh. That's not how you spell that. Saves lives. Let's keep reading. Amethyst Initiative's McCardell argues that there was no big dip in fatalities when the drinking age was raised. Okay. So they say that 21 will save 21 years old age limit will save lives, but McCardell says no difference when raised to 21. Instead, there has been a small, steady decline in drunk driving fatalities over the years, as Mad's work rightly has stigmatized drunk driving. And improved car safety has saved lives as well. So, gradual decline in deaths for other reasons, not because of the age limit. MAD Chief Executive Officer Chuck Hurley notes that several studies have found that 21-year-old drinking age saves lives. Okay, so we have more studies. We have, God damn it. There we go. Okay, so we have more people saying saves lives using other numbers. As the Associated Press reported, a survey of research from the United States and other countries by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention concluded that 21-year-old drinking age has saved lives. Wow. So it doesn't even give us the numbers. It just says these important groups: Associated Press, 联合新闻网, US Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, 中央疾管局. They say that 21-year-old drinking age saves lives, but this does not explain how. 9. Saves lives according to experts. Yeah, that should be 8. 9. By that account, then, raising the drinking age to 25 or 30 or 40 would save lives too. But there is this thing called freedom. And freedom should apply to men and women old enough for military service, old enough to get married, old enough to have had an abortion 4 years before. So the response is actually something called a slippery slope, 滑坡理论, 滑坡论点. The idea is if somebody says doing something is good, then shouldn't we do more of it? But of course, that's not always true. Sometimes there is too much of a good thing. And so the author is saying raising the drinking age from 18 to 21 is too much of a good thing. It's restricting our freedom. Again, you can agree, you can disagree, but that is the point. Number 10, there's something nasty in the way MAD takes on the critics. Parents should think twice before sending their teens to these colleges or any others that have waved the white flag on underage and binge drinking policies. This is MAD's way of trying to stifle debate. So, okay, the argument in this paragraph is against uses bad style. Like their argument is not like a stylistically good argument. Okay, what is this person saying? I think it's a woman, right? Deborah, yeah, what is she saying? She's saying that the way that these people talk about it is nasty. It's impolite. So what do they say? Parents should think twice before sending their teens to these colleges or any others that have waved the white flag, which means given up, on underage and binge drinking policies. Why is this impolite? First of all, Does this make any point? Is there any logic to this idea? No, right? It's just saying if they won't change, we should not send our kids to be their students. There's no logic behind this. It's a call to action. But also look at their language. Parents and teens. Like, yes, we are talking about 18 and 19-year-old people. They are technically teenagers, but they are also adults. Calling them teens puts them in the same group with 13-year-olds and 14-year-olds. It's treating them like children. I shouldn't say treat. It's talking about them like children. And then, of course, parents and their children, there's a strong emotional connection here. So it's getting you to think about the idea of what if my child's school is full of drinking people and it's so dangerous. It makes parents worried, even though it's not based on evidence or based on logic. And then it says they have given up on this issue. Now, again, there are many levels to fighting underage drinking. You can go do some extreme preventive measures. You can take some light measures. It's not just we are against underage drinking or we have given up. There are many middle gray areas. I'm pretty sure no college has actually 100% given up on fighting underage drinking. So this is also an overgeneralization, 过度伸张,过度延伸. And that's what the author is saying. This kind of statement is not helping. It's like threatening. 11, mad executives, 行政执行那个领导阶层, also have charged that university presidents want to rethink the drinking age to make their lives easier. As if they don't care about students or to protect against legal liability. Okay, this is interesting. Against says 18 for other bad reasons. Right, this is what it's saying, right? It's saying people who want to lower the drinking age want to do this not to keep people safe, but because of other reasons. To make their own lives easier and to not get sued. 就不要被告. So this is what these people are saying. What is the author's response? Now, maybe the argument that lowering the age will reduce binge drinking is wrong, but it is also wrong to argue that the 21-year-old limit has stopped teen drinking. This is a very interesting response. Do you think that the author has responded to this point? It looks like no, but actually yes. Because the original point says college presidents want to lower the drinking age for other reasons, not to protect your kid. And so the assumption is that lowering the drinking age will not protect your kid. It's not stated, but it's part of the argument, right? If they only want to do it for other bad reasons, but if it works to protect your kid, then this first point would make no sense. I don't care why somebody does something good as long as they do it. Right? Like if I prevent somebody from hitting you only because I hate that guy, not because I like you, it doesn't matter. I still stop them from hitting you. So this first point would only make sense if they say that it doesn't actually work. Lowering the drinking age does not keep 18, 19-year-olds safer. That is the main point. And so the response is, well, keeping the drinking age at 21 doesn't work either. So the response is it's irrelevant. Right, so they didn't say this, but it's part of the argument. So the response is you might be right, but it's irrelevant to the main point. And 12, how can we trust 18-year-olds to vote or run for office, but not to legally buy a beer? So paragraph 12 is repeating paragraph 1, right? Explaining same age for everything, same age for everything. Okay, so that is the presentation order. Now let's take a look at the argument structure. So we can ignore 3. I'm just gonna take these out. Secret drinking culture, 21 doesn't work. Against 18, against the other side says this, but it doesn't work. The other side says this, doesn't make sense. The other side uses a bad style, and they don't have an argument. Okay, so it looks like the most important argument is that there is a secret drinking culture. Okay, let me so the issue is the same. Drinking age limit. The position is lower to 18. Most important point is like the secret drinking culture. But the evidence for this is experts. Who? What? Like we don't have numbers, we don't have stories. It's just these people say. Okay, what's another? What's another point? 21 doesn't work. Yeah, that seems to be the second main point. It's a really big point. Watch. Currently, lots of teenagers drink, and even more in college. So illegal drinking already. What else do we have? Sorry, the main argument should be same age or everything adult, but there's no explanation of that. And then you have the harms of the secret drinking culture, according to experts. We don't really know how that works. Illegal drinking already. And so that responds to the other side. If you lower the age, more will drink. Well, they already drink. The other side says it will save lives. 21 didn't save lives. When the age was raised from 18 to 21, it didn't really save lives. It was for other reasons that fewer people died. Next one, slippery slope. So this is the argument about freedom. Okay, ooh, where am I? This is actually here. Freedom is important. But again, like not a lot of explanation. Slippery slope argument. A slippery slope argument is not very strong. I'll explain later if I have time. I don't have time. And then the third argument is, sorry, the fourth argument is a negative style. Why is this bad? Don't know. because it's called like nasty or something. Not sure why that's important. We talked about this earlier. This is repeating. So this is the argument structure of this second essay. Should be the same age for everything adult because of freedom. And if we change the age, other things will change too. And the slippery slope is weak because just because drinking is 21 does not mean other things will have a higher age later. It's separate. Second argument, second most important argument, a secret drinking culture, but it doesn't explain why this is bad. If there was more explanation of why this is bad, this would be the most important argument. Then we have change. The 21-year-old age limit doesn't work. This is we call this a negative argument. It's saying the other side can't solve the problem, but your side has not solved this problem either. So it's a weak argument. And then finally, the other side is being mean. 人家好凶哦. Very weak argument. Okay, so homework is to compare these two essays, see if you can find where they are talking to each other, and when they are talking to each other, which side makes more sense. And next week we will also start. I will also start meeting with you to talk about what you want to write about for your argument essays. Okay, see you next week. Oh, sorry. If you, okay,